Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
See, JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Definitely not his, the barn burner that Leif Cassidy and Ty Riley Singh was, but, we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Hager kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match for that to be.
It is in the mail, my good sir. Oh, it wasn't Paul.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely, and
And then you can listen to us too. We're off to a rough start.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Rolling Fueless.
And I'm Mongo.
And today is episode 62. We're calling an audible this week. We originally had planned to discuss ECW Double Tables, but doing more research, we found another show that was a little bit more noteworthy. It was the main event from 1988. So we're going to discuss that, and we're also going to recap our Royal Rumble predictions and see how well we did later on in the show.
And I know what all of you are thinking. Oh, they showed it on SmackDown last night. No, this text went through like Wednesday. So this happened well before Hulk Hogan brother showed up on SmackDown and talked about it for about 8 seconds and then did an Edge promo. Just wanted to let you guys know that's not why we switched. I actually came across it on Facebook looking at different videos, and it just happened to pop up, and I was like, oh, crap, that's like this weekend. So I texted the boys and we decided to do it, and then SmackDown stole our thunder a little bit, but thankfully Hulk Hogan was a running promo machine, not really talking much about the match itself. So he just called he called the giant a stinky wart infested giant. That's about all he did.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can attest to that. Getting the text like, "Hey, watch that!" Trying to find on the network under the Saturday Night Main Events, and then of course last night SmackDown, Hulk Hogan has to talk about the 33rd anniversary. Well, you know what? We were first, brother.
And I will say this for anybody that wants to go back and watch it, it is a little bit hard to find. I will say that it wasn't easy to find. The WWE sorts their stuff out kind of weird sometimes. So if you want to find it, you actually have to go under the Saturday Night Main Event banner, right? Is that where you found it, Mongo?
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though it's the main event, because there is a main event thing on the network also. So don't go to there. Go to the Saturday Night Main Event and then scroll till you find the date, which is February 5th, 1988.
And it was episode 1, so if it's the first one, and you'll know when you see it, and it's a good event. Not to get too out of ahead of itself, it's solid.
It's funny because it is the first one, but it's not on the thing. Like it's like they go all the way back to like 85. So then you have to like scroll. So it is definitely not easy to find.
This is the definition of a hidden gem.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unique. This was a televised special, so it wasn't a pay-per-view or anything like that. So there's 9 total matches, but 6 of them are dark. And there's only 3 on the main card, which actually, as we'll discuss later, turns out to be like 2 1/3 of a match.
Yeah. There wasn't much of that main event match.
No.
Which could have been a really good match. I mean, I'm not going to jump ahead, but I mean, the Hart Foundation and Strike Force, that could have been a really good match.
Yeah, we'll blame NBC on that one because it's like they were like, "Oh, we're out of time. Gotta leave now."
Well, and then the best part is they say they're out of time, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, but they say they're out of time, then we still get to see the end of the match. I mean, they went home early, but like there was no commentary. It was like a couple of moves, a flip, and then a sit down cradle type move, and then the match was over, and then they went off the air.
Was actually added. I was doing some research. The show cut off early, but the network added the finish to the actual.
Okay, all right.
Well, that makes
sense.
Yeah, if you look close enough, you can see the jump cut where it goes off air, and then like they randomly have the ending fast forward to throw it in there. So I was like, oh, they snuck it in there, Sly Dogs. Again, not to get ahead of ourselves.
Well, and you would think if they were going to go to that level, they could have just given us the whole damn match. But who cares about the fans?
Right?
This would have been such good shit.
And
if you saw it.
Speaking of good shit, I know you're gonna go over the matches, but some of those dark matches, I feel like we missed out. Why couldn't they add those in there too?
There was a lot of big names on this show.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, give us the rundown before we keep talking about it without telling people what it
or
is.
spoil you.
Yeah.
Well, the first dark match was Axe and Ken Patera. Axe going to get the win here in about 9 minutes. I think this one is a decent choice to get the crowd going. Axe really popular with Demolition. So I'm assuming it was a I'm assuming he got a good pop. I'm assuming they were face at this point. But yeah, I think it was probably a decent way to start the show. Again, these are hard to analyze because we weren't able to see them.
No, but like we said, there's a lot of big names on these dark matches, so it's weird that the WWE didn't at least show. Maybe they could have showed highlights of them. Like, I mean, they could have fitted in better if they wanted to, but they didn't. They wanted to show the 3 matches, well, the 2 1/4 matches that we saw, and that was it.
And Vince tapes everything because I've been to house shows, and all of a sudden there'll be a random video clip that surfaces from this. So they record everything. They've been doing it since they've started because he wants the library. That's all Vince's thing. That's why they sold the network to Peacock, because it's all about making money off the library.
Yep, and that's they've gone out of their way to go to other wrestling companies to just buy the library.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone, Houston Wrestling, all these other, the AWA stuff, any of the stuff you see on the network, they just wanted the tapes.
And I don't blame them. As a fan, I'm happy to have all these libraries at my fingertips. And not to get off topic, but real quick, it's good to have it. But something like this where we could have had some classic matches, because I was 2 when this happened, so it's not like I could have watched this.
Same here.
I wasn't even alive, so I wasn't watching.
So as the bloopers say, were you -1?
Yes. I was -2.
Going Dark Order.
Next up is Jake Roberts and Harley Race. Jake Roberts going to get the win here in about 11.5 minutes. This is one of the matches I would have liked to see. I'm a big fan of Jake Roberts' work. And Harley Race, obviously an absolute legend in the business. Too bad we lost him last year. This is one, though, that I think would have been a really good match, and one that, like I said, I would want to see.
Oh, definitely. And for everything that Vince McMahon is bad, for the stuff he did for Harley Race towards the end of his life, just shows you the type of person Vince is. He can be a tool, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to people that he cares about that have wrestled for him, and to get to have the support of the Vince, these veterans that need help. If they need help, Vince finds a way to help them. So it was cool to hear that. And yeah, I mean, Jake Roberts he was on Dynamite Wednesday. So this match was probably, I mean, if you look at the card, there's not really a bad match on this card.
Right, and I think that's why we, not to keep beating a dead horse, but that's why we're going with like this. This would have been a great one to see, as we're all saying, the rest of the card being good to see. And I think that's what it's more disappointing. It's like, I would have loved to see Jake Roberts versus Harley Race. I didn't see a lot of Harley Race matches, so I would have liked to see him work.
And it was an 11-minute match, so it's not like it was a quick, some of these matches. I mean, and then not the next match, but the match after that went 13, almost 14 minutes. I mean, these could have been really good matches.
Right, this is pre-Raw, pre-SmackDown. This is like, their storyline show. So who knows what kind of storylines we missed that led up into the following, events that they get to.
Next up is Ron Bass getting a win over Coco Beware in about 6.5 minutes. If there was a bad match on the card, this might have been the one.
This one I'm not sad about not seeing.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Frankie out there one time with Coco. Like, that would have been fine. But like, this is the only one that sticks out that might have been a clunker. But I mean, we don't know. It was a 6-minute match, but it could have been, good. It could have been good spots. We don't know. I feel like this next match, though, not to cut you off, Tim, this match could have actually stole the show, because this match could. I wish we could have seen this one too.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid, and the Islanders, Haku and Tama. The British Bulldogs didn't get the win here in 13 minutes and 42 seconds, which is the longest match on the card, and it's one that we unfortunately did not get to see. But like you said, I bet these two teams tore the house down. British Bulldogs could definitely go, and the Islanders could go as well. Really disappointed that we didn't get to see this one.
This match was probably physical as all hell too. This match was probably, if I had to guess, I would say that if you polled the fans that were there, that was probably the most impressive. I mean, we didn't see it, but some of the stuff that Davey and Dynamite Kid did before they split up was pure gold. So this in Haku, I mean, think of how long Haku was in the business, and he's like notably one of the most badass, don't screw with this guy, so I mean, this match could have been really good.
forgive me for butchering the names, but the Anoa'i, essentially the Hart family. I know Dynamite Kid's not technically, but still, you had some of the seeds of some of the greatest wrestling dynasties in history in there. And Dynamite Kid, who has inspired Chris Benoit and countless wrestlers, who's a phenomenal wrestler, and not to be confused with Sean Waltman, 1-2-3 Kid, by the way, people. It's Dynamite Kid, completely different person.
That's not the Kid or the 1-2-3 Kid. It's a Dynamite Kid. And since Davey Boy is related by marriage, technically, I guess Dynamite Kid would still be related, sort of, because he was his cousin.
True.
So technically, I mean, I know we're going on a limb here, but you have, the Anoa'i family and the Hart Foundation, the Hart family. Think of the people that were, that have come out of these two families. I mean, these are the two families. When you think of wrestling, you think of these two families.
Yep.
Absolutely. Next up, I would imagine would be one of the best technical wrestling matches that you've ever seen.
Oh!
It's Jim Duggan and the One Man Gang. They went about just under 6 minutes here. Jim Duggan with the win. Again, I think this probably wasn't a great match, but it's probably one to get the crowd going. Jim Duggan, obviously an absolute fan favorite. And I've always enjoyed the One Man Gang character. I think he doesn't get as much credit as he does for being versatile because he was Akeem.
The African Dream, baby.
African Dream. So I think he was really versatile. But again, this match probably wasn't the greatest, but again, it was probably a crowd pleaser. Yeah,
I mean, like you said, I think One Man Gang might be a little underrated, knowing what he did and how versatile he was. I mean, at one point, he's teaming with the Boss Man. And, he's playing this gimmick of a white person as the African Dream. And I know it's probably some sort of, rib on Dusty. I know Bruce Pritchard tries to say it wasn't a rib, but I mean, come on. I mean, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. You already have Virgil as $1 Million Man's manservant, and, Virgil being Dusty Rhodes' first name. This is another play on it, I think, whether they want to admit it or not.
We love you, Bruce, but we know you're a yes man, and we know you have selective memory when it comes to things. Well, I wasn't there. Well, you probably were there. You just don't want to admit it. I agree. This 100% has to be a rib on the American Dream. Even down to some of the mannerisms he used.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, and then again, not to, like Tim said, Duggan was so over in that era. And really, Duggan was like John Cena before John Cena was John Cena. Duggan had like 5 moves. I mean, that's about all he could do. But he was such a fan favorite, waving the flag, bringing the 2x4 with him. Before people named weapons. I don't know if Hacksaw had a name for his 2x4, but it wasn't Janice or
Moppy.
What's Jericho's bat's name right now? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, they seem to name all their weapons now. I wonder if Hacksaw had a name for the old 2x4.
It was probably just ho.
Yeah, maybe that's when he was yelling ho and he was holding it up. Maybe that's what he meant the whole time. Man. Mind blown.
Sidebar, I'm super excited because if the cruise happens in October, when the cruise is supposed to happen, he's one of the guests of honor on the cruise, and I can't wait to try to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'm a huge mark for him, and I want to know if he's still wearing those blue trunks. I feel like that's the only pair of tights he owns is those blue trunks.
Well, I mean, he might have Goldberg pants now. They might be blue shorts. We're gonna get there, but maybe. But yeah, no, he's notable for those blue trunks.
I actually met Jim Duggan when I was a kid. He came to a video store when those were a thing in our area. And
was it Blockbuster?
I think it might have been Video Update.
Oh wow! See, we're going back now, folks. I mean, if we're gonna go back in the '80s, we may as well go back and name some of these places that some of these younger kids have never heard of.
But he was in WCW at the time. I think it was in '99. I got to meet him. He did a quick autograph signing. Nice cool. Guy from what I remember.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Next up is our final dark match. It's the Ultimate Warrior and Sika. And this is a long match. The Ultimate Warrior went 4 minutes.
I wonder if they counted the entrances too. Yeah. It's surprising that it was 4 minutes. Again, Sika, one of the Wild Samoans. Again, the Anoa'i family. It's a typical Ultimate Warrior match. I would imagine he came out, he kicked his ass and left. I would assume. Yeah. I mean, Sika must have put up a decent fight because the match went 4 minutes, but it still couldn't have been. It wasn't important enough to put it on TV. So
I know it's just hard to compare because it's like looking at the card. it's like, holy crap, Ultimate Warrior, Jim Duggan, the British Bulldogs, like we think Jake Roberts, and it's like, and you don't air any of them, not even just one. They could have just picked one, thrown a dart, at least like, hey, here's 5 minutes of the British Bulldogs, like you guys said earlier, or some highlights of, hey guys, here's what you missed earlier.
Right. I mean, if anybody was watching TV that night and thought that's all they had going on, they're morons. Sorry. I mean, even as kids, you knew that there was more that you didn't see.
Especially when they kind of cut right into how this started, which we'll get into, but you can tell. I knew it was cut before looking at Wikipedia or anything. I'm like, I feel like they've already had matches because this crowd's already way too hot, way too like they've been here. I feel like we just came into hour 3 of Raw, which is basically what this was. If you watched a Raw, this was like they came into hour 3.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, you mentioned the crowd. The crowd was on fire for what we got to see. I mean, they were loud and really into all these matches. So I guess the dark matches, they did their job. They got the crowd going.
I agree.
So we begin the actual televised portion of the show with a match for the Intercontinental title. The Honky Tonk Man is your champion, and he's taking on Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth. The Honky Tonk Man is accompanied by Jimmy Hart and Peggy Sue, which I had to look up. That's actually Sherry Martel.
I didn't have to look that up. One of the times they turned, and I saw her face. Like, oh no, shit, that's Sherry. Like it was funny because she had the glasses on, and then at one point she lost them, and when she turned, I was like, oh, that's Sherry Martel. No kidding.
Wow.
And I did the same thing. Like, hey, oh.
I thought this match was all right. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good way to get the crowd going. I guess continuing the crowd momentum. The Honky Tonk Man throughout the match was kind of lusting over Miss Elizabeth, and that was kind of the whole story. He was going to beat Randy Savage and take her home, and
take her to the Heartbreak Hotel.
Yes,
it was very easy to take her.
And love her tender. And
was Peggy Sue going to go? Like, I don't know. It's
Peggy Sue was his girlfriend.
Yeah,
girlfriend, and then maybe the Honky Tonk Man has a lot of game. We don't know.
maybe Jimmy Hart got Peggy Sue if Honky got Elizabeth. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe
video I don't want to see.
No, I don't need. I mean, I've met Jimmy Hart. He's a nice guy and everything. But yeah, nobody wants to really see that, I don't think. But maybe that was the plan. Maybe that's why Jimmy Hart was trying so hard to help Honky. I mean, that's what he usually does anyways. But maybe that's why he was trying extra hard to try to, get some action from Peggy Sue.
I don't understand.
Rest her soul.
I don't understand some of this, like Vince McMahon. I feel he loves these storylines. He loves the cuckold storylines of like, I'm going to steal this person. It's going to be great. We're going to have this person steal his wife. We're going to even everything. He tried it with every single. If you have a wife like Lana and Rusev recently, he loves to do these weird ass like, oh, the heel's going to try to steal the woman. Like, I get it's a storytelling, but I'm like. And I know this is probably the first instance, but it's like I already didn't like the Honky Tonk Man because I'm gonna put it on the record. I know he's one of the greatest Intercontinental champions. Use quote fingers, but his gimmick sucks. Like he can work in the ring, but his gimmick sucks. Like, yeah, I know it's supposed to be an Elvis ripoff, but it's just not entertaining to me. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I don't see him as a ladies' man. Even if I was, 10 years old in the 80s, I'd be like, that guy's not gonna steal anything but my donut. Like,
yeah, right. Well, and then it's funny to think of the fact that he's related to Jerry Lawler too. So you wonder how much of Vince having the Honky Tonk Man was the precursor to getting Lawler to come, because Lawler was such a big name in Memphis.
Yep.
And when Vince finally got him, he wasn't that same guy. So you don't know how long during that time maybe he was trying to use Honky to get Lawler, but yeah, I mean, think of how many times Lana has supposedly been with somebody else. They had the Dolph Ziggler storyline with the Summer Rae involved, and then you have the Bobby Lashley thing, and it just, like you said, for whatever reason, Vince has a hard-on for these stupid storylines that nobody believes, because especially now in days of social media, you can tell that Lana and Rusev are together.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's not, you're not fooling anybody. And then, side note, it was funny to see Rusev wear the same outfit on Dynamite for the wedding of Kip and Penelope that he wore at the spoiling the Lashley wedding. It was the same outfit.
And it's like too what they're doing now with Ric Flair and Lacey Evans right now, which is totally it's not believable because everybody knows in real life they're both married.
Yeah.
Ric Flair posts about his wife on social media all the time, and they use Lacey Evans' husband in the storyline not that long ago.
And the kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you would think if they were going to go that route, they would have picked somebody that people had no association, relationship wise. I mean, smart fans know you can't pick Peyton Royce because she's with Sean Spears.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, there's certain people you can pick. I think it would have been more entertaining if you had done like Tamina trying to get like tell me that storyline wouldn't at least be funny. Tamina trying to like swoon Ric Flair, like that would be hilarious. At least it would be something funny. This is just stupid. And all it's doing is leading to a match for Charlotte and Lacey at WrestleMania. That's all it's doing.
And that's the biggest thing is like, there's that old cliche, like those who don't know the history are doomed to repeat it. And I used to always joke, and I still joke, that it's like Vince just thinks wrestling fans have memories that are 5 minutes long. Like, we're not going to remember that we just saw the same, like, Ric Flair and Lacey doing that like wrestling pose, and Charlotte walks in. I'm like, oh look, that Triple H and Trish Stratus moment from like 10 years ago. So
when Stephanie walks in, yep.
And they didn't even have the same facial expressions. I was like, so clearly it's not just the writing team that's the problem. It's Vince is like, this is good shit. It's like, you like it, Vince, because you saw it 7 times.
Well, and it's funny too because it was funny too because we're going to talk about the Rumble shortly. At the Rumble, he wasn't even there. The Rumble went off, other than the Roman Reigns botch, which we'll get to, went off really smooth, and it didn't seem overproduced. And I guess Adam Pearce had a lot to do with it, from what I heard. So I mean, that just goes to show you that maybe Vince should be a little more hands off instead of hands on, because the Rumble was actually probably the best show they've had in a couple of years. It was a really good show.
But I mean,
and I'm not trying to skip ahead, but sorry, Mongo, I'm not trying to skip ahead. I just don't, it just proves your point about how Vince just, it's stupid.
And going back to this, it shows booking. Like, clearly Vince booked this. Like, I don't know why he gets the clout he does for being such a great booker, because he's really not that great of a booker. He's just always been fortunate to have some of the greatest talent around him because he has a global empire. I mean, look at this, lineup on. And like, we're going to get to next. So many great stars in this event, and for up to the 90s, the Attitude Era. So he's just always had great talent around him. So it's easy to have frosting look good on a turd when you have enough frosting to cover the turds. So
that's a perfect cliche, a perfect way to sum up what Vince. I mean, Vince is like, oh, this is good. No, it's not. You're literally putting makeup on a pig is what you're doing, and it's not. But anyways, let's move on before we run the whole show talking about Vince and how bad he is.
That's next week. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say next week and the week after and the week after. Anyways, but yeah.
Next up is the World Heavyweight Championship match between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, who is your champion. This became the most watched televised match at all time. Something like 33 million people tuned in for this. Obviously, this was a big rematch from WrestleMania 3. There's a lot of shenanigans with Ted DiBiase and Virgil. Ted DiBiase is trying to buy the championship in the storyline. He's going to, have Andre the Giant win and sell the belt to him or buy the belt off of him. This was what you would expect, I think. I think Andre couldn't really go that much here. He was kind of slowing down. So he just basically did a lot of just chokeholds and stuff like that, and that kind of like side suplex. But it was a screw job here. We had the screw job where Hulk Hogan clearly kicked out, but the referee counted 1, 2, 3, and then we see 2 Dave Hebners in the ring, as Jesse Ventura said.
The original Twin Magic.
Yes. And it turns out it was a whole thing with a screw job. They bought the referee off. Ted DiBiase did. Andre wins the belt and tries to give it to Ted.
This for its time was a fantastic storyline. For everything that we crap on for Vince, stuff like this, when you do it right and it's done in that magnitude at that level, it's perfect, because nobody expected, Dave and Earl Hebner to be, to have that. And then for Hulk to kick out at 1, and that promo he cut in the locker room afterwards, almost crying, was fantastic. Talking about how much plastic surgery the guy got and all. I mean, this storyline made this. And to Tim's point, Andre could never really go per se because he was so big. So you had to, when you had Andre, always had better matches with smaller guys because they could bump for him. Hulk wasn't going to bump for anybody, brother, unless he wanted to. And even so, even that he won the match at WrestleMania and Andre gave him that thing, I feel like Hulk still didn't sell that much for Andre here. I feel like he still owed him a little bit, and he didn't. He could have flopped around a hell of a lot better and made Andre look like the giant that he is if he had just sold a little bit more.
No, you're 100% right. I love Andre the Giant because as a kid I was terrified of him. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen the HBO documentary, you should totally watch it. Andre Giant's phenomenal. He, like you said, he really couldn't go, and that's not really his fault. Being the dude was just so massive that he was always in pain. I mean, even in the Princess Bride, when he catches her, you can see she's on a harness because his back was so in shambles because his body was just destroying itself. And like you said, people who bumped for him made him look good because he looked like a dominant monster. So that's the whole Vince loves to, Hercules, David versus Goliath, mentality. And Hogan is he's kind of like another Goliath. So it's Goliath versus Goliath, but like you said, Hogan doesn't sell. So, it was the chokeholds and that weird like flip that he did on Hogan before he pinned him, where Hogan just didn't even like help Andre. So Andre kind of just had to throw him. You could tell his back was hurting. So
yeah.
It was definitely sloppy, but the storytelling was great. So, like, if you can look past the technicality of this, that storytelling was great. That the '80s promo, nothing more '80s than that montage of Hogan training in the gym. That was the greatest thing I've ever seen. He's just sweat beaten down. He's got the terrible gym shirt. He's like screaming out, and you can tell that he's just like ready to destroy some monsters. And like, everyone deserves a montage, and he got his montage.
and meanwhile, Vince is under the table playing with himself because he probably loved it so much. He's like, this is good shit. Oh. Vince is always into those big muscle guys.
Yeah. Next up is our main event. It's a tag team match for the tag team championship. It's Strike Force. Tito Santana and Rick Martel against the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart with Jimmy Hart. It went 10 minutes, but we saw probably 30 seconds of the match. And
that was after they put the extra 30 seconds in. Yeah,
they put the 30 seconds in with the finish, the roll-up finish. The match started, it looked like it started during a commercial because they had the entrances and you cut to that Hulk Hogan promo that Roland was talking about. And then it looks like it faded away. So it looks like it started during commercial. They came back and boom, they're out of time.
I know, Roland, if you hadn't warned me about it in the group text, I would have missed it because I was like,
Tim, that was Tim.
Yeah, I apologize.
I'm not taking the credit for that one. He watched it first. He warned me too.
I was like, if I hadn't, because I'm like, I have to use the restroom. I'm like, oh wait, this match is only like 10 seconds, so I can hold it. But yeah, literally, if you blink, that sounds so cliche, but if you blink, this was literally you blink and you miss it. And then, like Roland said earlier, the awkward silence as they panned out because they went off air. And there's no commentary, and you just see the match end. You're like, what?
Like I said, if they were going to do that, they could have just thrown the whole match in there. Even if there was no commentary, you could at least watch the match. But
yeah, I mean, overall though, I definitely enjoyed this card. I mean, I would give this a solid 8. It was definitely 80s wrestling. This was when it was at its heyday in 80s wrestling. I enjoyed it, and I almost kind of want to watch the second main event and see if they have any follow up from the storyline. But I don't want to get ahead in case we end up doing that down the road.
We might. I mean, this leading up to that WrestleMania, and I know we've kind of talked a little bit on and off about it. I won't spoil shows, but this storyline goes all the way to WrestleMania, so there might be some good stuff in the middle to cover.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's a rundown of the main event from 1988. Switching gears, we're going to recap the Royal Rumble. We talked about a little bit earlier how it was a really good show. And we said Vince wasn't there. He was dealing with the passing of his brother. So condolences to the McMahon family there. And like you said, I heard the same thing about Adam Pearce was very involved in booking the Royal Rumble matches. As far as predictions go, I think Mongo takes the cake here.
He stole the show, and I hope everybody enjoyed our extra show that we released last week for you guys. We just felt like with the pay-per-view coming up, we had to do something, and we just ran out of time on our regular shows. We decided to cut you guys a bonus show.
No, I was really scared because obviously we recorded Saturday before the backstage, like Roland had said in the show. And, I had locked in my picks for the Rumble, and then I find out one of them is coming out 1 or 2. I actually can't remember. I apologize, but coming out number 2.
Not to cut you off, it was announced number 2, but then he came out number 1.
I think that's why I got confused I'm like, oh crap! Well, my pick is about to get destroyed. Like they're not going to do this. what?
And not to get too far ahead, but yeah, no, this show, like we said, was hard to predict to begin with, and I'm glad that they didn't make it as predictable as some of the past shows. And maybe that did have something to do with Pierce and not being Vince and having fresh blood in there.
No, I agree. It's definitely one of the best Rumbles they've had in years. Probably since the 2016 Rumble was one of the Rumbles I was most excited for and actually enjoyed from bell to bell.
So we'll run down the card real quick. We have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler getting a win over Asuka and Charlotte Flair for the women's tag team titles. A little surprising this match was on the pre-show. Got a lot of time, though, for a pre-show match. Got 10 minutes and 30 seconds. There's some shenanigans with Lacey Evans and Ric Flair costing Asuka and Charlotte. So Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are your new champions.
Excuse my language, but fucking yawn. Yawn.
Yep.
Yawn. I just, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax suck, I guess, as a team. I mean, I like Shayna a lot more than I like Nia. Nia is not good, and I know it's a lot of, and this is probably going to be, people are going to call this a hot take, but she always hurts people and or finds a way to hurt people. I won't say she's unsafe, but it seems like every time she's in a match with somebody ends up getting hurt. Shayna is a believable monster, heel type persona. And they want to keep them on TV. And I just think, putting them together, it's not a terrible idea, but giving them a second run with the titles is stupid. They could have put them on somebody else. It's dumb.
And this is typical Vince booking of tag teams, and I can't stand it. He'll break up established tag teams and put thrown together tag teams. I mean, you broke up the Iconics and have Peyton Royce trying to find a tag partner. You have Asuka and Kairi Sane. I know Kairi Sane left, but you throw her with Charlotte Flair that just set up an eventual match. You have Shayna Baszler, who you could have had some call-ups from NXT to have her have some of her friends come up and have her have a believable tag team, but you put her with Nia Jax. Like, it doesn't make sense. All these thrown together tag teams are getting the straps and getting these matches, and I think that's another reason why it doesn't work is Nia Jax is so green. So yeah, they're putting Shayna with her to kind of maybe help Nia, but even like the leg drop she did to finish, she kind of just like sat down. She didn't really try to do a leg drop, and not to be mean, leg drops like wrestling 101. If you can't do a believable leg drop, like please don't do it.
Well, and if anybody saw the WWE Iconic, the Icon series on Yoko, talk about someone that was huge that could deliver a leg drop.
Oh my God.
When that guy did a leg drop, I mean, it looked so vicious, and I'm not trying to compare Nia to Yoko, but obviously Nia is a bigger girl. Her leg drop should look vicious. And like you said, it looked like she pretty much fell out of her chair.
So, yeah, I give this one -5 stars.
Well, and if Mongo hadn't texted us, we wouldn't even have seen it, because Mongo's like, hey, this is on the free show, you guys. It's like, crap.
I was actually Tim again. Tim
again.
Yeah, I'm coming for all you guys.
I was gonna say
somebody has to.
I was literally in the middle of a DDPY workout, and Tim's like, "Hey, it's on the pre-show." I was
yeah, that's right.
Got to finish this one.
Well, and then it was ironic. I told you guys afterwards that like during the Rumble, I was texting the group text, and I wasn't getting any texts, and then all of a sudden I get like 4 pages of text that show up the next morning. Right? It was like, this is weird, but no, it needed to be on the pre-show just based on the fact that no one gave a flying hell about it. To give them the titles again is pointless.
Real quick here, we're running out of time, but we'll run down the rest of the card real quick. We start off with the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Goldberg. What you can expect, it's a Claymore and a Spear match. I thought they were going to give the title to Goldberg, so I was pleasantly surprised that McIntyre retained here.
Yeah,
I
literally was like, thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg, go home. And again, Goldberg comes out wearing Brock Lesnar's tights, so it was kind of weird to see Goldberg wearing Brock Lesnar's shorts for the first time ever. That was one of the memes going around that they just took the logos off Brock's shorts and gave Goldberg his shorts. He looked weird in shorts. He's so used to seeing him wear black tights or black trunks, but they were legitimately shorts. And Goldberg for being, and I know we crap on Goldberg, but for being that old and still be in that shape is great. But, it's nice to see them not shove him down our throat for another WrestleMania season.
He looked like he didn't even want to be there, want to wrestle. I mean, yeah, he's usually always blown up before his matches, but when he was wrestling, he just looked like he was like, can we just get this over with? Like, he didn't look like he was even wanting to be there. And I know you said earlier he's got some matches left on his contract that he's fulfilling, but it's like, if you don't want to do this, then pay the fine and get you out of your contract, because let people who want to be there, let someone fight Drew McIntyre, wrestle Drew McIntyre that wants to and deserves to. I want my Cesaro versus Drew McIntyre, damn it. Like, let that happen. I know they're not on the same brands, but still.
And that's the other thing too, is that I think he still has he either had 3 going into the Rumble or 2. So he has either 1 or 2 left still. That's the sad thing.
Like, he looked like he was a dude going to work on Monday morning. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, oh, another Monday.
This shit again. That's what he seemed like. Yeah, I agree.
Next up is the SmackDown Women's Title match between Sasha Banks and Carmella with Reginald. Sasha gets the win by submission here in about 10.5 minutes. Yeah, it's a decent match. Nothing really remarkable. I don't really remember a whole lot about this, to be honest.
No, it not to cut you off, Tim or Mongo, but no, these for whatever reason, these two girls just don't have chemistry together, and I don't know what it is. I'm a fan of both of them. I mean, I like the old Carmella better than this Carmella, like this new reincarnation of her, but they both can go, and it just seems like they're like oil and water for some reason. They just don't have great chemistry in the ring. The best part about these matches lately has been Reginald doing flips and doing all kinds of weird stuff. And, for what it was worth, it's hard for me where Carmella is now, the character she is, hard to believe her as anything but a fake, because she never wins. Like, she comes off as this classy, like, I have all this, and she never wins anything. When's the last time she won anything? Like, she came out on SmackDown this week and she was talking about how I beat Sasha Banks. Yeah, not when it counted. You beat her, but cool, you have nothing to show for it. So, it was one of those crap matches that, because of the chemistry, 2 good workers, and it just seemed like their chemistry's been off on these matches together.
Yeah, I would have nothing to add to that. I agree 100%. It was just meh.
Next up is the Women's Royal Rumble match. Bianca Belair is going to be your eventual winner, last eliminating Rhea Ripley in about 59 minutes. I thought both of these, we'll get into the men's one, but I thought the women's one was really well done. We can run down the participants here real quick. So you had Bayley entering number 1 and Naomi entering at number 2. And Naomi, surprisingly, lasted a long time in this match, like 48 minutes. And I was a little surprised because we haven't seen much of Naomi recently.
Yeah, I mean, we just had 2 shows after the Rumble, and she wasn't on either one.
Yeah.
It's weird. I feel like she always makes her return at the Rumble and then disappears again. I feel bad because I like Naomi.
Well, Jey Uso made his return, too. He hadn't been seen in like 2 weeks. He wasn't at the pay-per-view, and all of a sudden he was on SmackDown. So,
yeah, Kofi shows up backstage.
Well, and you know how much sense it would honestly make if they put Naomi with Roman and Jey? I mean, to have her, like, have a woman in that group would be free. I mean, she could be a badass in that, but they want her to be a face, so I get it. But, I mean, they're missing an opportunity there, I think.
Yeah. Next up was Bianca Belair, who entered at number 3, and that was Mongo's pick. So, congratulations, Mongo, on.
Without looking at the numbers, I would guess that she lasted roughly 57 minutes.
Yep,
that's about right.
Well, the Rumble was 58:50, so she must have lasted 57:20. Would be my guess.
And side note, not to jump too far ahead, but what really bothered me is literally right after this match, they were doing like that whole numbers thing they do every year. And they're like, number 3 is one of the worst numbers to get, as we haven't had many winners. I'm like, you just literally had someone win at number 3 tonight.
You just had fun. Well, and then, like I said, it's weird that, not to get to the men's, but it's weird they split. They announced that Edge was number 2 on the backstage show on Fox the night before, and then he comes out number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just because they wanted to prove he could be Shawn Michaels and win it from the number 1 spot? I don't understand why it's the same amount of time. Like, what difference does it make? They both 1 or 2. Like, it doesn't matter. But anyways, this is the women's one. Let's continue. But yeah, it's weird. I don't get it.
Number 4 was Billie Kay. Then you had Shotzi Blackheart, Shayna Baszler, Toni Storm. And then we get our first surprise entrant of the match. We have Jillian Hall with her singing gimmick.
but no thing on her face. I wanted the thing on her face that Boogeyman.
Well, the Boogeyman ate it.
Yeah.
I was hoping the Boogeyman came out again too. I'm like, this sucks. They missed an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I will say it was pretty comical that Billie Kay came out 4 and never got in the ring until Jillian Hall came out, and it was Jillian Billy.
Yep.
I will give her. I mean, for what Billie Kay does, she's actually. I mean, she's annoying, but she's actually kind of entertaining. The way they kind of have her do what she's trying to find a partner and all this stuff. So it was funny. Like everybody was beating her up and not getting to the Rumble, and then when Jillian Hall came out, I'm like, oh, she's gonna knock her out too. And no, they decided to team up. It was Jillian and Billie.
If they just waited 3 more entrances, she could have gone with their old tag team partner.
And at one point, they reunited in the match
for like 2 seconds. Iconic.
Yeah.
No, there was good storytelling with Billie. She was a riot, and when she was giving her headshots to everyone, I was laughing every single time.
Well, and it's funny too because that it doesn't even seem like it's that big of a deal, but it's actually pretty entertaining. Like the more they keep doing it, the more it's like you already tried to team with these people, and then like Friday Night SmackDown, she still thinks she's in the Riot Squad, even though they kicked her out. Like it's gold. They're doing well, and I remember that I mentioned when they both split up, when Peyton Royce and Billie Kay split up, that I thought they were going to do more with Peyton Royce, only because I felt like she's a little bit better wrestler and she's slightly better looking, and I know Vince likes the better looking girls, so. Not trying to be, knocking on Billie Kay. I'm just saying that I thought Peyton would go further, but really, they both haven't done much. And I think Billie Kay has actually been more entertaining, and it's nice to see. So,
next up is Ruby Riott, and then another surprise entrant, Victoria. It's kind of interesting that they did the two surprises kind of really close to each other.
Yeah, well, and Naomi too. So I mean, in the first 10 spots, you had 3 surprises. One was a return that's on the roster per se, but then to have Jillian Hall and Victoria come back. Victoria, that was pretty cool to see her back.
Yeah,
it definitely was. I got excited just because like holy crap, because I just listened to a podcast where she's like, yeah, I had to retire, didn't really want to, but injuries and yada yada yada, and I was like, oh okay. And then I heard her music and I was like, holy crap, like it was a genuine surprise. And Emily almost jumped off the freaking couch because she was so excited because we met her on the cruise and she's such a sweetheart. And we were secretly rooting for her to go a little bit. I think she lasted, I don't know, it was like 7 or 8 minutes. She lasted pretty decent, 7 minutes. And then we got to see the Widow's Peak. So I was happy because Peyton Royce kind of does a version of it. So it's kind of cool that she's like, let me show you how it's really done.
Well, and she looked good too. Like, the whole, she looked like she was in great shape, and what she did in the ring was good. Like, it didn't look, Jillian Hall, you could tell isn't in the same shape that Victoria is for people that have been, I mean, not that Jillian Hall has gotten out of shape. It's just Victoria still looks like she's in ring shape.
Yeah. Still looks like she kicked the crap out of someone.
I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley.
No. Even though Lisa's like the sweetest person you'll ever meet.
Right.
In at 11 was Peyton Royce. Then you have Santana Garrett, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and then Charlotte Flair is at 15. Dana Brooke is 16. I guess you could classify this as a surprise at 17. You have Tori Wilson, although she seems to be in this every year that they do the Royal Rumble.
Well, it was funny too to go back to Santana Garrett. I thought it was Santina at first.
I did too.
I was like, what the hell?
I'm so glad. I thought so too. I was like, Santina Morella, are you oh, okay.
All right, never mind. Yeah, no, first thing I thought of, I'm like, really? This is what they're going to do now?
Because they've done it before. So
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Then at 18, you had Lacey Evans, Mickie James, Nikki Crossing at 20, then Alicia Foxen at 21.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. And there's a little interesting spot where she actually wins the 24/7 title from R-Truth in the middle of the Royal Rumble match. R-Truth comes out and he's like, oh, wrong Rumble, my bad.
I was thinking I think that's all they brought Alicia Fox out was just for that spot. She didn't really do anything before Mandy Rose took her out.
Yeah. At 22 is Mandy Rhodes, Dakota Kai at 23. Then you have Carmella, Tamina, Lana, Alexa Bliss, who was my pick, was in at 27. She lasted a good minute and 2 seconds.
At least your pick was in the damn Rumble.
Yep, that's true. Ember Moon at 28. Nia Jax at 29, and Natalya, which was already previously announced, was going to be in at number 30.
It was a little annoying with the Alexa Bliss. Like, she started to do her little transformation spot that I know they were teasing it, but I was like, oh, cool. Oh, really? Like, that was the biggest letdown. I feel like they only gave Alexa like a minute. Like, they didn't really give her any time. And I know it's because they wanted to build stuff up on Raw with her, but it's like, you couldn't have given her at least a spot in the Rumble. Like, she's busted her ass all year and she's worked this gimmick phenomenally. Give her some time in the Rumble.
The biggest, and not to we kind of forgot during the Sasha Carmella match. She took that nasty bump that was like Lita-esque, where she went out, she did the suicide dive, and she fell like right on her head. Carmella did. So she also she wasn't in the Rumble very long either.
Yeah, like it was like 60 seconds.
Yeah. So I didn't want to gloss over that, but yeah, it's hard when you have all those people in the Rumble to do that transformation, because they'd have to film it ahead of time like they've been doing. So like to have everybody in the right spot when you have like 8 people in the ring, I think they went about it the best way they could. Like you said, they should have given her some more time, but how do you do that transformation when you cut away and cut back and have it filmed and have everybody in the right spot?
Yeah.
No, I mean, if they were going to tease it, they should have teased it where it was a little more believable.
Right. Well, they could have done it when there was like 4 people left. She could have been one of the final 4, and then that could have been a little easier to do, because she could have had everybody in the right spots. And I totally agree with that.
Next up, we have the last man standing match for the Universal Championship between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. The match went about 25 minutes. A lot of crazy bumps in this match. There's a golf cart hit.
That was a nasty bump by Kevin on that one. And Roman got it in the face.
And I like how the people in AEW, like Sammy and all these people that are prima donnas that think that, oh, well, we did it first. Sammy just bounced off the damn thing. Kevin went through the window. You can't. Yeah. I mean, I know it's similar because it was a golf cart, and I get that. But when I saw the tweet from Guevara, more or less like, oh, we already did. No, motherfucker, you bounced off it. He went through it. And you can't, like you said, Roman got the plexiglass in the face. Owens went through it backwards. So he didn't even know where the hell he was going when he got hit. So, I mean, he could the frame. And I mean,
and technically he did it first at WrestleMania 17 or WrestleMania 16. But,
right. But I mean, I just thought it was funny. He was like, oh, they're copying us. Like, no, they did. I will give WWE credit. They made that better. It was a similar bump, but they made it better.
No, and I agree. And, I'm a huge AEW mark too, but I'm also a wrestling fan first and foremost. So the way I look at it is half the people who are bitching online, and if you're one of the people listening, shut up. But basically the smart mark's like, oh, AEW, you know what? AEW is a newer company. They're going to do things that have happened. WWE is going to copy other companies. Wrestling copies each other. Ring of Honor copies New Japan, vice versa. You know what? Because if it's been a great idea, it's probably already been done, because wrestling has been around for longer than I've been alive. So
yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that if you can do something that's been done but put your own twist on it, then it's not a bad thing. If you're copying it every time the same, then yeah, it's stupid. But at least, like I said, I mean, that bump that a couple of bumps that Kevin Owens took in this match, where the swanton off the forklift through those tables. I mean, you can't. He was like 20 feet in the air. I mean, you can't fake any of that. And everybody's like, oh, wrestling's fake. Well, yeah, but I mean, some of these bumps are insane for guys, especially somebody Kevin Owens' size. He's a bigger dude, and he's out there flopping around like he's friggin' Lince Dorado.
You can't fake gravity. So, people can say wrestling's fake, but you can't fake gravity. And, being tall myself, falling down, you fall down even from a few feet up, that shit hurts. And people who, say wrestling is fake, blah, 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 you watch movies for entertainment, and you know what? The fight's not a choreographed, but you still watch it. And that's what wrestling is. And, kind of not to digress too much, but yeah, like you said, that spot where, the forklift, him flipping off, I've seen that done before, but they did it better. The cart, he went through it, he went pretty ass first through it, took Roman out with it. It was a great spot. And AEW's was different than this one. And every company is going to do it. And people just need to shut up and enjoy wrestling, as bad as it says. Like, that's the one thing I hate about some of the wrestling fans out there, and not all of them, but a lot of them. They're just whiny marks, and it's like, enjoy it, because this is the best time we've had in wrestling in probably 20 plus years. So enjoy it.
Well, and that's the same thing that I've said. She wants to see these companies, people be fans of both companies and enjoy the show, versus AEW versus WWE versus New Japan versus Impact. Enjoy it as a fan. You can favor one show versus another if you want, but I mean, enjoy it, because like Mongo said, when's the last time we've had this much variety?
Right. And, look how great the Royal Rumble was, because Vince stepped down. Triple H realizes that he needs to make WWE a stronger product to keep up, because WWE is the hot new thing, well, not really new anymore, but you know what I mean? So the Royal Rumble was so solid. This is one of their best pay-per-views they've done in years. And it makes me excited for WrestleMania. Not that I wasn't before, but it makes me want to keep watching the road to WrestleMania. They're doing their job. They're keeping me entertained.
Well, and in this match here, I think quietly stole the show.
Absolutely.
with some of the stuff they did. I mean, not that I didn't have high hopes for it, but when you go back and look at this show minus the Rumbles, what was your favorite match? Easily this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and you know, the card has good people on it, so it's not like. But the story was good. The only problem was the botch where Kevin Owens did the handcuffs upside down, so they couldn't get the handcuffs undone, and the referee just stopped counting.
Yeah.
At 5, he was like, "Oh, Roman's not going to get up, so I need to stop counting." But you know, for what it was, this match was very intense, very physical, everything a last man standing match should have been.
Right. And this, we just covered the Royal Rumble 2000 with, you know, the Street Fight and the Great Rumble. This was very reminiscent of the 2000 Rumble where you had that amazing last man standing match that stole the show. And then you not only had one Great Rumble, you had 2 solid Rumbles. So in that last man standing, like you said, the botch, I can forget about the botch because you know what, things are going to happen because it was just such a brutal match that you didn't know what was going to take to keep the other person down. Like I thought Roman was going to be down after, you know, the spot where Kevin Owens went up on the forklift, and then, you know, Owens gets choked out. Like it was good because you didn't really see it coming. You knew Roman, like you guys predicted it. You guys knew Roman was going to win. I wanted KO Mania, I didn't get it, but it was still a solid match.
Well, and the only thing they could have done differently is if they had thought on their feet when the referee got to like 7 or 8, Heyman should have just knocked him out. And then there would have been no botch. You know what I mean? Heyman walk over, sock the referee, and then, you know, other than that, that's nitpicking. But I mean, you could not have put any other match between these Rumbles, and it would have, like I said, if you'd put the Goldberg match here, people would have been like, "Oh, piss break."
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but the last what 2.5 hours of this pay-per-view you couldn't miss because of the 2 Rumbles and last man standing match.
Absolutely.
So we move on to the 30-man Royal Rumble match. We all know that Edge is going to win, last eliminating Randy Orton. Match just went about over an hour. Edge did come out at number 1, which is a little weird, like Roland said, with you was announced number 2. Then you had Randy Orton at number 2. Sami Zayn at number 3, which I thought was perfect because it can kind of continues with the whole conspiracy theory gimmick that he's been doing.
Well, and he cut that promo out back too, where he was like, "I'm surprised I'm not coming out first."
Yeah.
You pretty much did.
Then you have Mustafa Ali.
Yes, thank you.
Jeff Hardy, Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke Nakamura, which is a big lineup of stars there, all work as I can go. And then you have your first surprise. You have Carlito coming in at number 8, which Mongo called that in our group text.
I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
According to the CDC, please don't do that right now.
No.
No. And I will say, you mentioned Shinsuke. What they're doing with him right now is perfect. I think they're finally letting him be him, and they're starting to let Cesaro be Cesaro too. And I think that honestly, the best thing for them would be to switch shows. I feel like one needs to be on Raw, and they can be believable whether they're face, heel, whatever they decide to do. Push these guys. Finally get behind these guys and push these guys, because Cesaro and Nakamura can steal any show if you let them.
Mm-hmm.
And SmackDown's got the strong lineup right now. SmackDown is the best show of the 3 shows.
Oh, easily.
Right now.
And I think a lot of it, not to cut you off, I think a lot of it is it's only 2 hours. If Raw was 2 hours, I feel like that show would be so much better. I think the 3 hours is just hard to get through.
I mean,
that's why I usually don't watch it till the second hour, because I can just fast forward through all the garbage I don't want to see.
And I think that's why this Rumble was solid too. You know, not to cut you guys off or to kind of jump on Tim's reading of the entrance, but there was a lot of SmackDown talent in this Rumble. You know, there was a lot of Raw, but there was a lot of SmackDown and, you know, an NXT call up in there. But the SmackDown talent, I think, what made, because they were sprinkled in enough, and the storylines that carried over well enough, that made this Rumble a lot more believable. And I enjoyed it.
And I think this is the first time since back when SmackDown had Edge and those guys that I feel like SmackDown is a better show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like since then, since Edge and The Undertaker were, you know, when they were on those shows and they were stalwarts on their show, I feel like it's back to that level. And you still have guys like Seth Rollins who haven't really been around. I mean, he's coming back supposedly next week. He came back for the Rumble. Again, not to spoil Tim's, you know, running down, but, you know, it just goes to show you that I think a 2 hour show and having some big name, I think it's so much easier to do a 2 hour show with the big names than try to do 3 and stretch it out.
I agree.
At 9 was Xavier Woods, Big E in at number 10. Then you had John Morrison, Ricochet, Elias. Then the NXT call-up, Damian Priest. Then you have The Miz and Riddle. Don't call him Matt Riddle.
Don't call Damian Priest Punishment Martinez either.
Yep. Daniel Bryan in at number 17. Then a surprise entrant. You had Kane in at number 18. I would have liked to seen Kane go a little bit longer. He just went under 2 minutes in the match.
But he had like 3 eliminations, didn't he?
He had 2.
Yeah. So I mean, in 2 minutes, he threw out 2 guys.
Hey,
Wow.
That's all right. To cut behind that, before you get to the numbers, I'm in a Royal Rumble pool, and I was excited because I had number 23 and number 24. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a great pick. So go ahead, Tim. Keep announcing these guys. And when you get to 23 and 24, listen to these schmucks that I ended up with. Sorry. Continue.
You had King Corbin at 19, then Otis, Dominic Mysterio, Bobby Lashley. Then at number 23, you had Hurricane Helms.
Stand back. You ain't winning that pool.
I was so pissed. I'm like, and this whole time I'm like, AJ hasn't come out yet because I picked AJ. So I was like, oh, please let AJ be 24.
At 24 was Christian.
I had a good sentimental pick with Christian because it was cool to see him come back. Don't get me wrong. And he actually lasted. He was like 5th to last. So he actually had a really good showing. But who was 20? Who was 25, Tim?
AJ Styles.
That whole time I'm like, come on, AJ. I mean, he didn't win anyways, but still I was like,
Mm-hmm. Rey Mysterio in at 26. Then you had Sheamus, who was my pick to win the Royal Rumble. He didn't last very long, lasted like 6 minutes. So I didn't do too good in the Rumble, my Rumble predictions.
Hey, at least your woman Rumble competitor showed up.
That's true. And actually, both of my picks were entered at number 27.
Well, that's funny. Couldn't do that again if you tried.
Nope. Cesaro in at 28. Then the returning Seth Rollins in at 29. And then Braun Strowman rounds out the Rumble at 30.
And then one of the names that you didn't name, where the hell was Keith Lee?
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I don't understand why he's not in this. I mean, in this, they not to me, I mean, they could have not had Otis and put Keith Lee in that spot because Otis was literally in there just for a quick comedy bit. And he's just fallen from grace. The only really thing they even mentioned about him was, oh, he's helping train Daniel Bryan for this Rumble. Because
they could have had the Hurricane not go in, and they could have had Keith. I mean, the Hurricane doesn't need a spot. Like, I mean, the Christian thing was really cool. I will say that, but
Elias, there's plenty of places to put in Keith Lee. Everyone keeps saying that, oh, Vince can't use NXT talent. I'm scared that Damian Priest got called or Punishment Martinez, what do you want to call him? Because he's just going to fall just like Keith Lee, because Vince is like, oh, I don't understand their gimmick, so they're done.
Do you guys remember the last time we saw Keith Lee on Raw? I do.
I can grab the milk carton that has the missing picture on it.
No, I can tell you when it was. It was right before we saw Goldberg. It was the match against McIntyre. Mm-hmm. Ever since then, we haven't seen him.
Yeah.
He had a championship match, and then he disappeared.
That's true. He was thrown into the barricade. I forgot about that.
I was a little surprised, too, that the Street Profits were involved. I thought Montez Ford could do those typical Royal Rumble spots where, like, he's over the top rope and doesn't land on the floor, like jump on a table or something like that.
Well, and I thought Morrison was going to do that. Not to cut you off, Tim, but we discussed this last week that Kofi wasn't going to be in it, but Morrison was, and he was the guy that kind of pioneered those, and we didn't see any of them really.
And the one thing I think my biggest complaint, and it pisses me off, almost shouldn't have eliminated anyone. One person maybe when he eliminated Big E, okay, get rid of the big guy, and I get it, but then he eliminates Ray. It's like, stop having someone who stands outside eliminate people, because that's just, it bothered me. I know it shouldn't, but it's like, that's crappy storytelling to have, essentially a bodyguard eliminate people.
And to that point, if you're going to have him eliminate people, have him eliminate people that are on the same show as AJ, so you can have a storyline.
Yeah, not SmackDown people.
2 SmackDown guys.
Yeah. But overall, I think we're both or all three of us are in agreement. This was one of their better pay-per-views in a long time. Really solid show. The Rumbles were great. The Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens match was great. Minus the botch ending there. But overall, a really solid show.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the Goldberg McIntyre match turned out the way it did. It wasn't a long match. It told the story. Like Mongo said, Goldberg probably is there for his payday, and that's it. But he was in great shape, and he sold, and he did what he was supposed to do. It makes you feel good knowing the last couple of times we've seen him, he's jobbed out to Braun and he's jobbed out to Drew McIntyre. That's what he should be doing. If he's going to come back, he shouldn't be he shouldn't have beaten the Fiend. Like, that still pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Even Brock Lesnar now, like, if they're going to come back, don't put the strap on them, especially if they're part-time. Like, Ed just had a really good quote on Sports Center, because it's weird, still weird to me that Sports Center covers wrestling, because 10 years ago that wouldn't have happened. But he was talking on Sports Center, and yeah, I was in gimmick, but he's like, I'm in a title opportunity right now. Why would I be part-time? So I like that he understands that he needs to put the work in to build up this program at WrestleMania with whoever he picks, which I think he's going to go after Roman. But he's showed up in NXT, and he's building his program. Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, they show up for a title picture. They show up, they win the title. You don't see him again until WrestleMania. It's like Roman said, he beat The Fiend at the Saudi Arabia show, and all it did was crush Bray Wyatt's push. His white hot push that he had going, crushed it. And thank God Bray is so talented that they're rebuilding this new storyline with Randy Orton. I can't wait to see what they do with this, because they're actually finally letting Bray be Bray. And that's what I think this Rumble really helped, is they're letting their talents, like we talked about in an earlier show, work their storylines to the best of their abilities, and not just giving them crap storylines for them to work with.
Well, and to your point, the one thing that pisses me off about that is that Orton, all of a sudden, his burns went away.
Yeah.
Came out with a weird red face, and then he was fine by the Rumble.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it makes the storyline feel like it's over, only to have Alexa Bliss have more to do with Randy Orton on Raw. Like, why, if you're going to continue that, why would you not have Randy still have scabs or something on his face? I don't get it. Like, burn victims don't recover in 2 weeks. Like, it doesn't work that way. He doesn't have a mask on 1 week and then red face the next week, and then, whoa, look at him at the Rumble, he's healthy. No, he's not. Part
of me thought when he came out at number 2 and they did the switch, I'm like, oh, if they're doing the switch, I wonder if the Fiend's going to come out and attack him before he gets to the ring. And I thought maybe, or Alexa was going to attack him, and they didn't. They just let Edge kind of beat him up, just send him back for the typical heel spot that he does, where he gets hurt, goes out back, and comes back. Because that false finish was terrible, because it's like, we knew they're not going to let Randy Orton win 3 Rumbles. They're not going to put him in Stone. They're not going to let him touch Stone Cold's record. Stone Cold's got that record. I don't think anyone should beat it. I'm glad Edge has got the 2-time, because I feel like that's one of those records that's okay for Hall of Famers to have. But don't give Randy Orton 3 Rumble victories, because that just means you're taking an opportunity from someone else. And I know people are upset about Edge, but Edge deserved it.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that I think a lot of people didn't expect Edge to win, especially after he got the number 1 spot or 2 or whatever. You thought, oh, this is going to be good, he'll go far, and then you're like, oh, he's coming out first. Like, what's that going to do? Mm-hmm. So sorry that this show went so long for everybody, but we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It was, 2 really good shows. I don't think we would have got that out of the ECW show, so I'm kind of glad we pulled the Audible. I mean, we can still watch it maybe next year, who knows? But I'm so glad that we decided to pull the Audible here.
Yeah, I think it worked out well. And we went back to our roots. We started the show doing past and present shows, and we went back to our roots this week. And like you said, I think it turned out well.
Well, and I think that's the other thing you got to remember too. Now that we're, a 3-man thing, our shows might go a little bit longer than the half hour. And, if you fans don't like it, let us know. Maybe we can trim it down, or try to, or if you like the longer show, let us know too. I mean, we don't mind, BSing about wrestling. So if you guys want to hear it, cool. If not, again, we're on Spotify. Hopefully some of you fans are listening to us on Spotify right now.
No, I appreciate, this is my 10th episode on the show, and I appreciate, joining this, because this is the funnest I have. So, hopefully it comes off when we talk, because this was 2 great shows we had to watch. We got to watch something from the 80s that was phenomenal, and we got to watch the current product that was phenomenal. So we didn't have any crappy things to watch. We didn't have any WCW, 2000s to watch, where we're drudging through it. I generally enjoyed watching what we had to watch this week, and it didn't feel like a chore. I felt like I enjoyed it, and that Rumble was great. And talking about it's fun, because it keeps the passion for me alive when we talk about this. So hopefully you guys listening feel that same way, because this is the best time wrestling's been in a long time. Enjoy it. I'm enjoying it, especially during this pandemic. It's been the only constant. It's been the one thing that's kept us entertained, and I'm hell of appreciative of it.
Absolutely. Coming up for you guys next week, we're going back in time a little bit to 1996. We're doing WCW Super Brawl 6, which is highlighted by Hulk Hogan and the Giant. Not Andre the Giant like we discussed today. This is the Big Show Giant.
That's hilarious. I didn't even realize that was so. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool that we did the Audible, and then I don't think we're gonna change from this show. I think this is a show worth watching. And again, not the Double Tables wasn't, but I just felt the Andre the Giant thing, we just kind of had to go there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like the 96, 97, 98, and some early 99 WCW anyways. Mm-hmm. Once you get to mid to late 99, it kind of becomes a shit show. And whatnot, once Bischoff gets dismissed and everything. But I have, this is just when WCW is starting to build momentum. So this should be a good show.
No, I agree. This is 94 to 98 was the peak of WCW. So this is going to be definitely entertaining. And Paul White, Big Show, Jay, whatever you call him, was phenomenal in WCW. So I'm curious to see how he works with Hogan.
I'm actually surprised he wasn't in the Rumble. I thought he would have been a good guy to come out for the Rumble.
Yeah.
But
so that is coming up for you guys next week. As always, we'll be back next Saturday at 5. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next Saturday. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.